In my 3rd year as the rich heir's kept man, I was kidnapped. Julian's voice was chillingly calm. I don't care. Kill him if you want. Just before a club knocked me unconscious, his one that got away swooped in and saved me. When I woke up, my brain was scrambled. I saw Julian as my rival and his old flame as my husband. I clung to the man who saved me and yelled, "You're the other man, Julian. Stay away from my husband." The once proud heir gritted his teeth, nearly losing his mind. "Leo, how could you love someone else? Whatever. Do what you want with him." As Julian's casual laugh came through the phone, a kidnapper was holding a knife to my chin. His tone was as unhurried and indifferent as it was 6 months ago when he bought me a vintage oil painting worth millions. Back then, his eyes were full of tenderness. "If Leo likes it, what's a little money? Quit joking around," the kidnapper sneered. "You just dropped a few million on jewelry for him. You're telling me you won't pay 50 million to save him?" Julian actually chuckled. "You seem to know a lot. This little act of yours is way too fake." That set the kidnapper off. He twisted my arm violently. "I want to see 50 million by 7 p.m., or you can come collect a body." My arm popped out of its socket, and a cold sweat drenched my body. My vision went dark as my voice cracked. "Julian, please save me." Julian cut me off, his voice flat. "Are you really this desperate to stop me from picking up Caleb?" I shook my head frantically. "Julian, this isn't an act. I've really been kidnapped, but I never got to finish." Julian's secretary's voice came through the phone. "Mr. Liu, Caleb has already landed. If you're busy, I can go get him." "It's just a prank call," Julian said after a pause. "I'm on my way." "But, nobats. He's a nobody. He can't compare to Caleb." The moment the call ended, my mind went blank. A clap of thunder cracked outside, looking like it had split the sky in two. So he'd never really had feelings for me. He didn't even care if I lived or died. Becoming Julian's kept man was a total fluke. My parents divorced when I was young, but my dad's business did well, so I had a comfortable life until I was 20. Then he got sick, went bankrupt, and passed away. My life turned upside down. To pay off his debts, I had to go to school during the day and work as a delivery driver at night, living a hand-to-mouth existence in a basement apartment. When I saw Julian, covered in blood near some dumpsters, my first instinct was to walk away. But I almost drowned once as a kid. The person who jumped in to save me wore a beaded bracelet identical to the one on Julian's wrist. I took him to a small clinic and spent my last 3 months of living expenses on his treatment. We should have gone our separate ways after that, but Julian followed me back to my basement apartment. He must have been hit on the head, because he couldn't remember anything but his own name. When I got home that evening, I found him at a nearby construction site. He was there hauling cement in a designer shirt and slacks. He barely made any money and completely ruined his expensive clothes. Did he have a brain? He could have sold that outfit for more than he'd make in a month of hard labor. I slapped the dust off him with a towel, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "If you really want to make money, you might as well just sell yourself. But when we were walking home yesterday, you kept staring at the cakes in the bakery window." Julian pulled out a small cake, its single candle flickering. He smiled, his eyes as clear and bright as fire-forged glass. "I saw the calendar on your desk. It's your birthday today, right? Happy birthday." In the end, I couldn't bring myself to kick him out. Julian moved in, and my diet went from the occasional meat dish to the two of us sharing instant ramen. One winter night, he heard me come home and pulled me into his arms. "You're back, honey." I froze. Took a long moment before I slowly hugged him back. We lived a simple, quiet life like that for 3 months. But the end came without any warning. Julian just disappeared, returning to his wealthy family. I lost all contact with him. I saw him again while working at a private club, where a customer was giving me a hard time and had just splashed a drink in my face. Julian's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the man by the throat and slammed him against the wall. I couldn't help but run forward and throw my arms around him, my whole body shaking. "Hey, baby," Julian chuckled. "You're coming on a little strong. You think I actually like you?" I retorted, trying to save face. "Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm just after your money. Julian burst out laughing. I like a man who's direct. He seemed to treat me even better after that, sending me a fixed sum of 15,000 every month. Thanks to him, the weight of my debt was finally lifted. If I so much as glanced at an expensive painting, he'd buy it. If I touched a piece of dazzling jewelry, he'd buy the whole set. I had never been so happy. Felt like the whole world loved me. So today, for Julian's birthday, I spent all my cash on an expensive ring and gave it to him in front of his friends. I thought he'd be surprised, that he'd look at me with the same gentle, brilliant eyes he had when we first met. Instead, Julian's face was a mask of indifference. He frowned, then casually tossed the ring out the window. His tone was mocking. A sugar baby from a basement apartment actually wants to marry me? Leo, what were you thinking? His friends all roared with laughter, as if they just heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. I've seen dumb, but I've never seen this dumb. Doesn't everyone know Julian has been obsessed with Caleb for years? Now that he's back in the country, you're lucky Julian hasn't kicked you out already, and you're trying to marry him? Talk about punching above your weight. Has he lost his mind? I looked around at the laughing faces, feeling my world crumble. My head was spinning as I fled the villa. I don't know how long I ran. By the time I realized my surroundings were unfamiliar, I was completely lost. I sat by the side of the road for a long time. When a pair of headlights cut through the darkness, I instinctively stood up. I thought it was Julian coming to find me, but two men in masks got out of the car instead. Before I could even think to call the police, they held a cloth over my face and I passed out. As they dragged me away, the silver chain Julian had given me in the basement apartment was ripped from my neck. I tried to reach for it, but it slipped from my grasp. The kidnappers tried calling Julian a few more times, but each time, without exception, he declined the call. Another, bigger kidnapper cursed. Did we really grab the wrong guy? Damn it, I think we did. I did some digging. Julian really is throwing a welcome party for someone today, complete with a drone show that costs a fortune. This Leo kid is just a toy. He doesn't care about him at all. Useless piece of trash. The bigger kidnapper kicked me hard in the leg. I let out a muffled groan of pain. Just then, the deafening roar of an engine sounded from outside. With a massive crash, the metal door flew off its hinges. A black Harley tore into the room like a panther, bringing a gust of sea salt wind with it. The rider was incredibly tall. His black jacket was sharply tailored, accentuating a lean, wolfish build. The man swung off the bike and kicked one of the kidnappers aside. He was fast and agile, taking care of the group in seconds. It all happened so fast that I just instinctively shrank back. The man approached and crouched down in front of me. He took off his helmet, revealing a stunningly beautiful face. A high-bridged nose, deep-set eyes. The light carved out his features like a precious stone. How could it be him? Caleb. The one that got away, the man Julian could never have. Caleb glanced at my leg and spoke concisely. The police are on their way. I'll carry you to the bike. But just as Caleb was about to lift me, one of the kidnappers who had been groaning on the floor suddenly jumped up, grabbing a wooden club and swinging it at him. Look out. My body moved faster than my mind. I threw myself at Caleb, pushing him out of the way. The club slammed into the back of my head. As the world spun around me, I looked into Caleb's eyes and suddenly understood. That beautiful face, those gemstone eyes. The light was like velvet, carefully cradling my reflection in his pupils. No wonder Julian was so in love with Caleb. He was utterly captivating. The next time I woke up, my head was wrapped in white gauze and throbbing with pain. A doctor in a white coat was looking at me seriously, shining a small flashlight into my eyes. What's your name? Leo. Do you remember why you were injured? I shook my head. No, I just remember getting hit on the head. And then someone saved me. The doctor frowned and showed me a photograph. What about him? The man in the photo was wearing a suit and was quite tall. But his features were so delicate that if it weren't for his broad frame, you'd almost mistake him for a woman. Do you know who he is? I nodded. Of course. That's Julian. The doctor breathed a sigh of relief, but then I let out a snort. He's my rival. I crossed my arms and leaned back. I can't stand him. Why are you asking about him? The doctor's eyes went wide, his expression cracking. Julian is your rival? Then who do you like? Caleb, obviously. The doctor looked like he was about to shatter. He started pulling at his hair. I'm so dead. I'm so dead. I'm so dead. Julian specifically hired me to treat you. If he finds out your brain is scrambled, he's going to kill me. Who said my brain is scrambled? I was annoyed. Aside from a slight headache, I felt perfectly clear-headed. I think you're the one with the scrambled brain. Hating Julian is completely normal. Only someone with a scrambled brain would actually like him. Okay? Just as I finished speaking, the door was pushed open. My face lit up. Honey! I exclaimed. Hearing my shout, the two men who walked in both froze. I nearly choked. Why was Julian here with Caleb? Seeing the expensive watch and large bouquet of flowers in Julian's hands, it all clicked. What a vicious way to compete for a guy. That scoundrel Julian, seeing that I was hurt, was trying to pursue Caleb right in front of me just to humiliate me. My tone soured. What are you doing here? Stay away from my husband. Julian froze, then glanced at Caleb, who was clenching his fists, the corners of his eyes turning red. He is injured, after all. Julian looked gently at Caleb, patting him on the shoulder. You should go home for now. I'll clear things up with him later. I stared at the hand on Caleb's shoulder, my eyes practically shooting flames. I pulled Caleb over to me and planted a kiss on his cheek. You're the other man, Julian. I wrapped my arms tightly around the neck of Julian's old flame. Don't touch my husband with your filthy hands. Get out. Julian's expression changed instantly. Dressed in a long black coat, he looked like a hitman. His eyes locked on the two of us. What is that supposed to mean? Julian ground his teeth, spitting out each word at me. His expression was terrifying, his dark eyes like the barrels of a gun, ready to execute me at any moment. What did it mean? It meant I was kicking him out so I could have Caleb all to myself, obviously. But Caleb wasn't really my husband. I had just fallen for him at first sight because he saved me. I felt a little guilty saying it. But wasn't this just a competition? Two could play at that game. So I ignored Julian completely, placing my hands on Caleb's shoulders and giving him a flirtatious glance. Honey, Julian might be rich, but I'm better looking. His waist is as thick as a tree trunk. Mine is under 25 inches. His proportions are all off. He's taller than me, but my legs are longer. And most importantly, his skin is terrible. He's got acne scars. I took Caleb's hand and gently ran it over my cheek. Not like me. My skin is smooth and fair all over, except for my height, but who cares? So what if I'm a short top? Short tops are a gift to the world. Suddenly, my hand was grabbed. Caleb had been silent until now. But at this moment, his Adam's apple bobbed, and his breathing grew slightly uneven. His voice was a low murmur. Are you just trying to piss him off? Piss him off? Julian? Well, yeah. But more importantly, I was trying to win you over. Seeing that Caleb was wavering, I decided to press my advantage. Look how old Julian is. A few more years and he could be our dad. He's not young and full of stamina like me. Leo! Julian couldn't take it anymore. Veins bulged on his neck and forehead, and his eyes were completely bloodshot. He lunged forward, looking like he was about to drag me away and strangle me. Caleb glanced at him and instinctively pulled me into a protective embrace. The doctor rushed over and held Julian back. Mr. Liu, calm down. Leo is just upset. He's just saying things to get a reaction. A reaction? Julian laughed, a furious, bitter sound. I think he's faking the whole thing. He was kidnapped but doesn't have a single scratch on him. How fake is that? The man's gaze was icy, like a blizzard from the Antarctic. You threw yourself at me for money in the first place. Now that you can't fool me anymore, you're trying to fool Caleb, is that it? You're lying. I shot back, panicked that Caleb might believe him. When did I ever throw myself at you? Who is Caleb? And who are you? He's in a league of his own, and you're dirt under his shoe. You think playing the victim is going to make Caleb fall for you? Julian, Caleb suddenly said, you don't get to judge what I think. I tried to argue back, but a sharp pain lanced through my head, as if my skull was being split open. My vision blurred, and something warm dripped from my nose. I touched my face and saw blood. So much blood. I looked up dazedly and saw Julian's face had gone deathly pale. His eyes were filled with alarm. Leo? Leo! But I couldn't say a word. I grabbed onto Caleb's collar and passed out. I drifted in and out of dreams. After what felt like an eternity, someone sat down beside me, trying to give me water with a cotton swab. I instinctively slapped their hand away. The glass cup fell to the floor and shattered. I vaguely heard Julian roar, "Leo, Mr. Liu, please don't be angry," the doctor said in a low voice. "He has a blood clot in his brain pressing on his hippocampus. It's causing some memory confusion. He doesn't mean it." I heard that when Leo was brought in, he was clutching a ring with your initials engraved on the inside. "Let me show you." "Don't bother," Julian said, his voice laced with disgust. "It's probably a fake. Who knows what kind of filth it's picked up? Just throw it away. Besides, why would I be angry? I don't care if he likes me or not. The only person I've ever liked is Caleb, who saved me when I returned to the country 3 years ago." The man paused. "As for Leo, I just feel sorry for him." My heart felt like it was being chewed on by a wild animal, filling my chest with the taste of rust. I struggled to breathe as the monitors beside me started beeping wildly. Finally, the room fell silent. I woke up in the middle of the night. Julian was still there, unbelievably. He'd rolled off the chair and was sprawled on the floor, fast asleep. His shirt was wrinkled like a piece of pickled cabbage. Was he really this desperate to keep me away from Caleb? Too bad for him. Compared to Julian, Caleb was clearly much kinder to me. He had been sitting by my side, dabbing my lips with a wet cotton swab all night without sleeping. I looked at his tired face. How long was I out? Almost 5 days. 5 days. So he'd been staying up for 5 days, and Julian had been sleeping on the floor here for 5 days? I felt my waist, yikes, I'd lost muscle. It was even smaller now. But the thought of Julian, who was so obsessed with Caleb, being forced to sleep on the floor while Caleb took meticulous care of me filled my heart with a cheerful tune. Today is a good day. My unlucky rival is sleeping on the floor. In high spirits, I opened my mouth to thank him, but Caleb's hand was already reaching for me, and I ended up licking his finger. Even though it wasn't intentional, my face immediately started burning. I grabbed a tissue to wipe his hand. "Oh, sorry." "It's fine," he said after a pause. "Do you want some water?" I nodded and Caleb brought me a cup. For some reason, even though I could have held it myself, he shied away. He just held it to my lips for me to drink. After downing it in one go, I was even thirstier. I tugged on his hand. "More." Caleb suddenly closed his eyes. He stood up to get me more water, but before he sat back down, he adjusted his posture several times. "Is the chair uncomfortable?" "No." Then I patted the bed. "Wanna come up here? I'm skinny, there's room for 2. You've been up for so long, you should get some rest." Caleb suddenly looked up at me. Ever since I'd met him, he had always been quiet and composed, a perfect gentleman. This was the first time I'd seen such an aggressive look on his face. He suddenly leaned in, planting one hand on the wall beside my head. The lights reflected like glass beads, rolling down the muscles of his neck. He had me practically trapped in his arms. "You mean right in front of Julian?" His voice was so low I could feel the resonance in his chest. "You're inviting me to sleep in the same bed with you?" Of course, that's not what I meant, but it did sound kind of exciting. If I actually did something with Caleb right in front of Julian, he'd probably get so mad he'd cough up blood. The thought of his face twisted with jealousy was pretty appealing. "How about it?" I looked at Caleb. "Run away with me." Outside the window, the shadows of the trees danced on the wall, as chaotic as my heartbeat. Caleb didn't answer. He stood up abruptly, as if to walk out the door. My heart sank. He didn't want to. "Is this to get back at him?" Caleb suddenly asked. I didn't understand and just stood there, stunned. Then a bag was suddenly placed in front of me. Caleb crossed his arms and looked at me, his expression complex. "Weren't we leaving?" Yes. I jumped up and grabbed his hand, ready to bolt. But just before we left the room, I glanced back at Julian and turned around. He treated you like that? Caleb's voice came from behind me, tinged with cold. And you're still going to have second thoughts and go back to him? Caleb didn't finish, because I had picked up a marker and started drawing on Julian's face. A turtle on his forehead. On his left cheek, the other. On his right cheek, man. Still not satisfied, I wrote 2 lines on Julian's shirt. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. You got cheated on. Your man is mine now. I don't know what Julian had to eat before he fell asleep. He didn't even wake up with all the commotion Caleb and I were making, which worked out perfectly for me. I clapped my hands in satisfaction and ran over to link my arm with Caleb's. Let's go. I knew Caleb was rich, but I had no idea he was that rich. He called a private helicopter, which landed on the roof of a nearby skyscraper and flew me directly to some island I'd never heard of. While I was getting a checkup at the private hospital on the island, a gray-haired doctor looked at me. As long as you stay relaxed and don't hit your head again, the blood clot should dissolve on its own, and your memory problems will improve. No extra treatment needed. His tone was gentle, and his smile deepened as he glanced at Caleb waiting outside. But, son, Caleb never brings outsiders here for treatment. What's your relationship with him? A one-sided crush on my part. I just smiled and didn't answer the doctor. I thought Caleb had just brought me here for a checkup, but I didn't expect him to actually take me on a vacation. The island had clear water and white sandy beaches, shaded by coconut palms. As I buried my toes in the sand, tiny crabs scuttled over them. Tickled. But I'd almost drowned as a kid, so I was a little scared to go in the ocean. Not going in, Caleb had taken off his shirt and was standing there in swim trunks, running a hand through his hair. I took one look at him and had to cover my nose. Before, when he was wearing leather jackets and cargo pants, his broad shoulders and long legs already made him look like a model. But now, with his shirt off, I could see his chiseled back and lean waist. His muscles were perfectly defined, gleaming like honey in the sun. Paired with his deep-set eyes, he looked as gorgeous as a figure from an oil painting. No, I'm good, I said, burying my head and starting to dig in the sand with a shovel. I think I'll just build a sandcastle. Caleb watched me for a moment but didn't push it. He just said he was going for a quick swim and would be right back. I was both relieved and a little disappointed, left to watch as Caleb dove into the sea like a merman, surfacing and disappearing with the waves. The sun was intense, so I took off my shirt and lay down on a lounge chair in just my shorts. I had just dozed off when a few guys came over to hit on me. I turned them all down, but they were persistent. Annoyed, I decided to wander over to a small shop on the beach. I'd only taken a few steps when a large, middle-aged man started bothering me. His eyes were fixed on my chest and legs, making me uncomfortable. You must be bored all by yourself. Come hang out with us. I frowned and shook my head, but he grabbed my arm. Your skin is so fair, it's practically glowing in the sun. How do you take care of it? He's with me. Someone suddenly pulled me back and wrapped an arm around me. Caleb had come over at some point, his face dark and his gaze intimidating. The middle-aged man didn't dare say another word and quickly left. This time, I didn't hesitate. I followed Caleb into the water. But as soon as I was in, I panicked and couldn't breathe, clinging to him tightly. My voice was shaking.
I'm scared.
Trust me. Caleb patiently took my hand, looking at me encouragingly. You know how to swim. With me here, nothing will happen to you. I nodded and tried to follow his rhythm, breathing and moving forward. But suddenly a big wave crashed over me. I inhaled water as I tried to take a breath and started thrashing. The more I panicked, the more I sank. Couldn't even open my eyes. Suddenly, someone dove under the water and pulled me up. Then their lips pressed against mine, breathing cool air into me. My eyes shot open. The light caught in his eyes, making them sparkle. Caleb brought me back to the surface, and I clung to him like an octopus. Water dripped from his hair and eyelashes, rolling down his chest and along his V-line into the depths below. The blue ocean surrounded us. At that moment, he truly looked like a merman emerging from an underwater ruin, every line of his body breathtaking. The sun was blazing. Staring at him, I felt like my whole body was on fire. Just being held by him sent a shiver of longing for coolness through my skin. Our breaths mingled, and Caleb's face drew closer. Just as I closed my eyes, a speedboat zipped past, stirring up a wave. Caleb shielded me in his arms. His hand on my waist tightened for a second before quickly loosening. "Let's get out," Caleb said, turning his face away. "The waves are getting rough." What was I even hoping for? I pinched myself and took Caleb's hand. He seemed to hesitate for a moment but didn't pull away, just letting me hold on. After resting on the beach for a while, night began to fall. There was a fireworks show on the other side of the beach. Caleb asked if I wanted to go, and of course I said yes. I just didn't expect it to be so crowded. The sea of people jostled me, and I nearly stumbled. I tried to grab onto Caleb, but when I turned around, he was gone. We'd been separated. A hazy memory surfaced in my mind of hiking up a mountain with someone. I couldn't keep up and fell behind, and we got separated just like this. When I reached the summit, I couldn't find anyone. I called them, and their voice on the phone was slow and careless. "Oh, sorry, babe. A friend's birthday party came up, and I had to rush back. I totally forgot about you. I'll send you some cash. Can you just grab a cab back?" What happened after that? I can't remember clearly. I think the mountain was in a remote area, and I couldn't get a cab. I sprained my ankle on the way down and had to walk for over 4 hours, my ankle swelling up, before I finally found a ride back to the city. My head hurts. Who was that person? The voice was so familiar, yet I couldn't place it. Never chosen, always left behind. It felt like a curse that had haunted me my whole life, clinging to me like maggots on bone. I knew this was just a fireworks show, that we got separated because it was crowded. Once the crowd thinned out and the cell signal returned, we could call each other and meet up somewhere else. But a deep-seated terror gripped my throat, making it almost impossible to breathe. Just once, even just once, I wished someone would fight through the crowd, choose me without hesitation, and come find me. Leo! The grand finale of the fireworks exploded across the sky, like a nebula bursting. The world seemed to spin, shattering into a million colorful blossoms of light. Caleb pushed his way through the wall of people and pulled me into his arms. "You scared me to death," he said, beads of sweat on his forehead. "I've been looking all over for you. I was worried someone had hit on you and dragged you away. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. He had found me, just like last time. Right here, right now, the fireworks were perfectly timed, blooming in our eyes." He didn't finish his sentence, because I kissed him first. Things didn't go smoothly. I kissed Caleb, but he just froze. Then the crowd knocked us off balance, and I scraped my leg on something. He carried me back to the hotel and went to find cotton swabs and antiseptic. The cut was on the back of my leg, and I winced in pain. Afraid the fabric would stick to the wound, I gave my pants a hard rip, and a large tear opened up. Hearing the sound, Caleb turned around. His gaze fell on my pale leg, and he froze on the spot. It probably looked like I'd ripped my pants on purpose for him. I swear to God, that wasn't my intention. Caleb quickly looked away, brought over the antiseptic, and knelt on one knee in front of me. The silver chain on his neck swayed. As he knelt, the muscles in his neck and chest became even more defined. My breathing grew ragged. In my nervousness, my legs spread wide apart. The tear in my pants ripped even further. Caleb seemed to take a sharp breath, then leaned in to gently dab the wound. A drop of sweat rolled down his throat. He closed his eyes for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was hoarse. "The cut is on the back. You either need to turn around," he paused, "or lift your leg a little higher." Turn around? That position was way too. I bit my lip and threw my leg over Caleb's shoulder. "How about this?" Caleb didn't answer, but when he applied the antiseptic, he pressed down a little hard. I winced, my voice trembling. "Ow, that hurts. Be gentle." The sting of the medicine made my thigh twitch, and in my haste, my leg brushed against Caleb's lips. His eyes shot up to meet mine, and his hand clamped down on my ankle. "That's the third time. Caleb's eyes were dark, like a coiled serpent, the muscles in his back and arms tensed, like a panther waiting to pounce. No, the fourth time he corrected himself. Leo, you've been seducing me ever since you woke up. I don't care if it's for revenge or some other reason. This time, don't think I'm letting you get away. My legs were forced apart, his hot breath coming in hot and cold bursts. Something brushed against me like the tail of a python, sending a shiver up my spine. This wasn't right. This was all wrong. In my fantasy, I was the one pinning the beautiful man down, going at it until dawn, and making all the short tops in the world proud. Not like this, with me trapped like his prey. And besides, the size, that size. He was gonna split me in two. Not even Caleb's stunningly beautiful face could make up for that. Terrified, I kicked him away and, ignoring the pain in my leg, tried to run. But I only made it 2 steps before he caught me from behind, wrapped an arm around my waist, and threw me onto the bed. He grabbed my wrists, pinning them to my sides. Caleb used his legs to hold my knees apart, making it impossible for me to close them. He stared at me, the light pinning my shadow into his eyes. Caleb, I was genuinely scared now, my vision blurring with tears. You're a bigger person than me. How about you let me off the hook this one time? But Caleb just smiled. He was usually so expressionless, but now his smile lit up the dim room. I was momentarily dazed. He spoke softly, not a chance. The next moment, my eyes flew open, and he smothered all my cries of pain in a kiss. So much for the well-mannered gentleman from a good family, the peerless beauty with talent and looks. Caleb was a machine. I didn't dare count the pile of torn little packets on the floor. I started to suspect that Caleb, just like Julian, held some kind of grudge against me. Why else would he be trying to screw me to death? At one point, I even passed out, and when I woke up, the silver chain around his neck was still swinging. Every part of my body ached, the parts that were supposed to ache and the parts that weren't. Finally, I was crying and begging him to stop. Caleb kissed me for a long time before slowly pulling out. Even so, I was walking like a crab afterwards. Looking at the energetic Caleb and then at myself, a crumpled mess, I grumbled internally. Is the difference in our fitness levels really that huge? I was so tired I could fall asleep while walking. Seeing that I was in no mood for any more vacationing, Caleb carried me to get some medicine and then we headed straight back to the city. When the doctor heard my description of the situation, he cleared his throat a few times and said that young people should be mindful of their intensity, or else the wound could easily reopen. I wished I could dig a hole and bury myself in it. I suspected Caleb had it out for me. He was practically trying to kill me. So when we got back to New York, the moment he came near me, I glared at him. Stay away from me. But Caleb, apparently having no experience with boyfriends, took me literally. After we got back, he didn't take me to his villa. Instead, he booked the entire top floor of the most luxurious hotel in the city and set me up there. He bought matching couples' watches and rings but only took his own set, leaving mine at the counter for me to pick up myself. He even walked 5 meters ahead of or behind me. I was about to explode. This man was less romantic than a block of concrete. Didn't he realize that when I said that I wanted him to comfort me, he was turning into a ghost boyfriend? When I went out, he'd come to the hotel to bring me food and do my laundry. When I was asleep, he'd quietly apply medicine to my lips with his. Finally, I ran out of anger. Fine. So I didn't get to be the cool, dominant one. I could still have the heart of a top and spoil my man. So I used his black card to book the most expensive restaurant in the city, filled the room with flowers, and bought a gift, ready to make up with him. Holding the box with the matching rings, I had just stepped into the restaurant when I ran into Julian and his posse. Leo, stop bothering Julian. One of Julian's childhood friends said with a sneer. He gave you a chance and you didn't take it. It's too late now. Even if you regret it and try to suck up to him, it won't work. I looked at him, completely baffled. Who are you? Do I know you? You. The friend's face changed. Stop pretending, Leo. The restaurant, the flowers, the gift. Aren't you just trying to get back with Julian? Let me tell you, no chance in hell. That's enough. Julian cut them off and walked up to me, looking down his nose at me. This is your last chance. Apologize properly. Remember your place as my sugar baby, or you'll never see me again for the rest of your life. Are you out of your mind? I raised an eyebrow at him. I'm your rival. I don't even like you. Why would I want to see you? I couldn't be bothered with them anymore and started to walk away, but Julian grabbed my arm tightly. There's a limit to your games. Julian's expression was dark, his eyes webbed with blood vessels. I came all the way here for you. What more do you want? Come back with me. He's not going back with you. A new voice cut in as smooth as a cello. I was suddenly pulled back into someone's arms and kissed fiercely. I was almost out of breath, pushing against the man's shoulder, but it was as hard as steel. Caleb finally let me go, looked around the room, his eyes stormy. Leo is my boyfriend. No one is taking him away. It was the first time I'd seen Caleb in a suit. Unlike the wild, wolfish vibe of his leather jackets and cargo pants, the suit gave him an intimidating aura, one honed by years of being in a position of power. His hair was slicked back, his brows sharp, his shoulders straight. He looked like a jeweled sword drawn from its scabbard, expensive and deadly. He made Julian, standing next to him, look like a subordinate reporting to his boss. Everyone was stunned. A few of them shot sympathetic glances at Julian. After all, everyone knew how much he liked Caleb. Julian's face was pale as he stared at us. Caleb, I did my research. You live alone in your villa and you're a loner. You don't even like Leo. You're just playing with him. My heart sank. You should worry less about other people, Mr. Liu, Caleb said with a sudden smile. Keep this up and you'll be old enough to be Leo's dad. You. Veins popped on Julian's forehead. I'm only 6 years older than him. Caleb ignored him, grabbing a cup of coffee from a nearby counter and turning to leave. But Julian was relentless and followed him. I didn't see what happened next. It looked like Julian tried to grab me, but Caleb suddenly stumbled, spilling the entire cup of coffee on Julian before falling backward. The coffee must have been scalding. A rash of tiny blisters appeared on the back of Julian's hand, and he trembled in pain. Mr. Liu, just because you don't want me and Leo to be together, Caleb said, looking aggrieved, my hand is all red now. Apologize, I said, rushing to help Caleb up and blowing on his hand worriedly. Julian, you can dislike me, but you can't take it out on Caleb. He ran into me, and I got burned. Julian's face was twisted in pain and anger. And you want me to apologize to him? Caleb is so kind and gentle. He's your old flame and my one true love. How could he possibly run into you? I glared at Julian. How could you be so cruel? If you can't have him, you try to destroy him? You're even trying to smear his name. Fine. Fine, Julian's eyes were red. He suddenly let out a chilling laugh. You two are ruthless. We'll see about this. Back at the hotel, I wrapped my arms around Caleb's neck. That whole act today wasn't your style. Fess up. Where did you learn that? Nowhere. Caleb pulled out a stack of books and set them in front of me. The Rise of the Scheming Supporting Character, The Scheming Supporting Character's Guide to Dominance, The Art of the Two-Faced Male Lead. Don't read these, I said, covering Caleb's eyes. They're useless and will pollute your mind. But I think they're very useful. Caleb suddenly grabbed my waist and pulled me onto his lap. At first, he was as annoying as a fly, but then he left. And that's not all I learned. He bit the zipper of my pants and gently pulled it down. I just found out that when people like someone, they say the opposite of what they mean. When you said to leave you alone, you actually wanted me to come closer. My heart stirred. So while I was trying to smooth things over, he was trying too. Maybe reading those books wasn't such a bad idea. But I soon regretted it. After I told him to stop for the 6th time, Caleb said, "Okay, I understand," and continued for a 7th time. He was taking things way too literally. I'm going to burn all those books. Caleb's birthday was coming up, and this time, I didn't want to use his money to buy him a gift. So I took on some freelance work maintaining conference equipment to earn some money. The first few jobs went smoothly, but this time, as soon as I finished, the person in charge came to me with a frown, claiming I had lost a confidential presentation file. Not only would I not get paid, but I would also have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in compensation. That's impossible, I argued. The conference staff never gave me the file. And even if it was lost, don't you have a backup? The manager said that because it was confidential, there was only one copy. He advised me to pay up immediately, or I could be sued. This was outrageous. They weren't just trying to get free labor out of me, they were trying to scam me. Furious, I grabbed the manager and prepared to find the CEO of the conference to get some answers. But when I pushed open the door, I froze. A man with broad shoulders and long legs was leaning against the window, smoking a cigarette. The smoke blurred his handsome, somber face. Smoking didn't seem like the right word, though. The ash on his cigarette was long, and even when it fell onto his hand, he didn't seem to notice. It was Julian. I clenched my fists and turned to leave. The file is on your laptop. Julian took a drag from his cigarette and exhaled slowly. Mr. Leo, theft of trade secrets is a serious crime. Care to explain? My knuckles cracked as I clenched my fists tighter. I turned back and stared at him. That's slander. Do you have any proof? The security cameras can prove my innocence. The cameras? They're all broken. I'm guessing that was your doing? There's no physical evidence, but I have witnesses. Besides, Caleb has been stealing my projects left and right recently. His motive for directing you to do this is pretty clear, isn't it? Rage burned through my chest. You're a filthy liar, but I've always been merciful. Julian tilted his head slightly and picked up a drink. Leo, as long as you drink this, I can let it all go. There was definitely something in it, either a drug to make me lose control or one to mess with my mind. But Julian just smiled. I may not be a good person, but I wouldn't stoop to that. It's just medicine to fix your head. He took a sip from the glass, drinking half of it, then poured the rest into a new one. I drank some. What are you afraid of? I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. That old creep was nothing but trouble. Seeing my chance, I made a run for it, but several bodyguards rushed into the room and held me down. No, my chin was forced up, and Julian poured the drink down my throat. My head spun. Memories flooded back like a winter blizzard, sweeping me away. Turned out that Caleb and I had no real connection. It was Julian who was the one I had a history with. I was in a daze as the bodyguards finally let me go. You remember now, don't you? For some reason, Julian was just as pale as I was. He rubbed his temples and let out a soft laugh. Leo, the one you love is me. No, I pulled a jade pendant from my pocket. It was something I had found inside the cake Julian had bought me. The Leo who loved you died in that kidnapping. I'm giving this back to you. Before my memory got scrambled, I never had the chance to tell Julian. He was the one who had proposed first. Back then, in that cramped basement apartment, the fan creaked overhead, and the sound of cicadas droned on outside. He said, Leo, when I make some money, I'll marry you. It might be 3 years late, but I will. But in the end, I was the only one left holding onto that promise. What is this? All the color drained from Julian's face. Why do you have my family's heirloom jade? I would only give this to someone I deeply love. This, I swore I would only give it to the person who saved my life. 3 years ago, the one who saved me was clearly... A splitting headache seemed to hit him and he collapsed to the floor. While Julian was down, I bolted from the room. But within moments, his men caught me again and even took my phone. Julian sat on a chair, looking terrifying. He was like a drenched, painted demon from a ghost story, his eyes dark and damp with menace. So it was you. His fingertips traced my cheek with a possessive tenderness. It was always you. Julian, we're over. I looked at him, my bones creaking. I was the one who misunderstood. I took your kindness in that basement apartment, your way of passing the time, as something real. If you don't love me, if you don't even care whether I was kidnapped or not, then why won't you just let me go? Who said I don't love you? Julian's eyes looked like they were about to bleed. He gripped my arms so tightly I thought he would crush the bones. You saved me. Of course I love you. So you love whoever saves you? My vision blurred with tears. If Caleb hadn't saved me, I would have died in that kidnapping. Who would you be saying I love you to then? Would you say it to a memorial tablet? Would you mourn over a pile of bones? If I had died, you'd just be holding a new lover in your arms, muttering about how much you miss me. Would you even remember the anniversary of my death? Would you bother to burn incense at my grave? Julian, you don't love anyone. You're just in love with the idea of yourself. No, it's because I forgot. Julian shook his head frantically. His eyes filled with the ashes of sunlight. Leo, I made a promise to only be with someone who was genuinely good to me. I thought you were just after my money. Even though I knew I was supposed to like Caleb, I couldn't forget you. Julian had always been proud and rebellious, the infamous troublemaker heir of the city's elite. But for the first time, he knelt before me, clutching my hands, his expression utterly humbled. I really do love you, Leo. Give me one more chance. But I don't love you anymore. I looked at him and smiled faintly. Julian, the Leo who loved you is long gone. It's because of Caleb, isn't it? Julian shot up, pacing the room like a caged animal. 3 months. You've only known him for 3 months. Does that compare to our 3 years? What do you even know about him? You know nothing. He suddenly threw his phone at me. A recording was playing. Why do you think he saved you? Julian laughed, a self-destructive light in his eyes. Because his cousin has a crush on me and wants to merge our family's companies. He only got close to you to expand his business empire. Once he gets you away from me, his cousin will have a chance. For people from our kind of families, which one of us doesn't put business first? You're so naive, Leo. Caleb never liked you. I stood there, stunned as if struck by lightning. A bodyguard pressed the play button on the phone. 2 male voices intertwined. Cousin, have you handled Leo yet? Almost. Good. The merger between our families is the most profitable move, but as long as that Leo guy is around, Julian keeps delaying things. Luckily, Julian didn't take the kidnapping seriously, so I was able to text you and give you a head start. A hero swooping in to save the day. Huh? Leo must be completely devoted to you now, right? It's fine. All right, I know this is asking a lot of you. Once the merger goes through, if you don't like Leo, you can just dump him. In any case, his face and body are still pretty good. The recording ended abruptly. The warmth of our embrace under the fireworks by the sea was still fresh in my memory. But now I found it hard to recall Caleb's expression. What does a recording prove? I forced myself to stay calm. Could be fake. And besides, even if he did approach me with a motive at first, that doesn't mean he didn't develop feelings for me later. After all this time, you're still so naive. Julian burst out laughing. He picked up his phone and opened the camera's video log. If he likes you, why doesn't he take you back to his villa? If he loves you, why doesn't he openly buy you a matching watch? You've been here for so long. Where is he? Poisonous weeds grew in Julian's eyes. Because he's about to get engaged to someone else. He's with someone else right now. On the camera feed, Caleb was swaying as if drunk. A beautiful young man had his arms around him. Standing on his tiptoes, trying to kiss his lips, I couldn't break free from the bodyguards holding me. I could only turn my face away, my eyes welling up. I knew. Of course, I knew. Caleb, Julian, and I were from different worlds. Caleb was a brilliant firework, bringing a fleeting moment of joy, but one day we would go our separate ways. But it didn't have to be this cruel, making me watch him with someone else. Suddenly, something hit the camera, and the screen went black. Julian and the others fiddled with the phone for a long time, but it was no use. My mind was a complete blank, as if covered in a thick layer of snow. Voices echoed from far away. Leo, I have my own family and children now. Can you please stop calling me Mom? Leo, Dad is so tired. Can you give the rest of the money to Ms. Miller and her kids for me? They're the people I love most in this world. Leo, stop waiting. That pretty boy is gone. He's not coming back. You think you can climb the ladder to someone like Julian? Dream on. Finally, all the voices disappeared like a torrential downpour, leaving only the moon, whispering like a soft mist. You scared me to death, Leo. I looked for you for so long, and I finally found you. I woke up as if from a dream and reached out to hug him, but my arms closed on empty air. Life is full of suffering. Separation from loved ones, encounters with enemies, and unfulfilled desires. I knew I was hopelessly attached, always searching for someone who could be my home, someone to light the lamp of a place called home for me. But I also knew that such a person probably didn't exist. He wasn't coming. Leo. Someone burst through the door, his features deep and intense, his forehead covered in sweat. His legs were covered in blood, leaving a trail of crimson as he walked. Caleb knelt down and held out his hand to me. I'm here, Leo. Let's go home. Julian's face was a mask of astonishment. You drank the drug, how did you get out? And how did you know I was here? You talk too much. Caleb offered no explanation. He walked over and with a few swift throws he took down all the bodyguards. Then he grabbed Julian by the neck and slammed him to the ground. His punches were brutal, his strength terrifying. With a blank expression, he beat Julian's delicate face until it was a bloody mess, even breaking his nose. It was only when I, fearing for Julian's life, ran over and hugged Caleb from behind that he finally stopped. Leaving a room full of groaning men, I called an ambulance and took Caleb to the hospital. Why did you? Julian bribed a vice president at my company who was about to be prosecuted for accounting fraud. He set me up. Caleb lay on the stretcher in the ambulance, holding my hand, his eyes closed. The guy was already going to prison. He took the risk to drug me for some extra cash. That boy. I don't know that boy. He's a stranger. He tried to hug me. I pushed him away, and then I cut myself a few times with a box cutter to stay clear-headed. How did you find? After the fireworks, I never wanted to lose you again. Caleb glanced at my phone case. There's a tracker in it. The merger. My family has always believed in marrying for love. My father used to say that wealth is for giving yourself choices. If you make all that money and still can't choose who you love, aren't you just incompetent? So, did you get close to me to help your cousin, to separate me from Julian? Caleb fell silent. Do you want to hear a story? He asked. There was a chubby boy who was always bullied as a kid. People threw stones at him and called him names. Even when he bought snacks for the other kids, they would throw them away, saying they were contaminated with fat germs. Only the prettiest boy from the class next door would tell him the snacks were delicious and ask him to bring more every day. The two became friends, and the pretty boy always stood up for him. Whenever someone bullied him, the boy would pelt the troublemakers with beanbags. Once, during the class heartthrob election, someone nominated the chubby boy as a prank, expecting everyone to laugh. But the pretty boy brought a bunch of cakes and bribed everyone to cast a few votes for him. Years passed. The chubby boy grew up, built like a little brown bear. The pretty boy, meanwhile, grew to look more and more like an elf. Because he was always following the pretty boy around, trying to protect him, the chubby boy once saved him from drowning. That was the closest they had ever been. The chubby boy got several beaded bracelets that looked just like the one on his own wrist, wanting to give one to him, but he never found the courage. He ended up giving them to his other friends instead. Later, in middle school, the chubby boy went abroad with his father for business. After years of working out, he completely transformed himself. But his personality remained introverted and quiet. 3 years ago, he returned to the country for a short trip and happened to find his old neighbor, the pretty boy's lover, passed out on the street. He saved him, but he also discovered that the pretty boy he adored was in love with that neighbor. The boy was still as beautiful as an elf, but his eyes were full of someone else. The chubby boy was filled with regret, hating himself for his hesitation, for the chances he missed. He left in sorrow. 3 years later, his family's business underwent a major change, and they all moved back. He then heard shocking news. The pretty boy had been kidnapped, and his neighbor, the lover, didn't care. His body moved faster than his mind. The chubby boy jumped on his motorcycle and raced to save him. By a strange twist of fate, this time the pretty boy's eyes finally had him in them. You have no idea how hard I had to fight to run to you, to get to your side. Caleb wiped away my tears. I was always alone as a kid, and I'm still not good at being around people. I'm quiet and boring. I was always afraid that if I got too close, you would leave me. But I didn't help you just because I was kind. I looked at him and lowered my head in shame. I helped you because your snacks were genuinely delicious. If you hadn't told me, I would have forgotten all about you. And besides, even though you were chubby, your features and proportions were objectively good. You were good-looking. You were better looking even when you were chubby than anyone else. Caleb suddenly smiled. Leo, I love you. I love your integrity, your sincerity, and how even when fate has been cruel to you, you still have the heart of a child. Caleb spent half a month recovering. Julian seemed to have run into some trouble recently and had disappeared. Worried about making Caleb uncomfortable, I was always the one to initiate. But the size difference still terrified me. Caleb gripped my waist and paused. Leo, are you sure you can handle this? A man can never say he can't. What are you talking about? I sat down hard, wincing but still trying to act tough. Forget once, I can go 7 times. But I soon regretted my bragging. That night, as I cried and begged for mercy, Caleb just kissed my ear. You said it yourself, Leo. 7 times. Suddenly, the ringing of a phone cut through the night. Wait! Stop! I struggled to answer it. There's a call. Caleb glanced at the phone, pinned my hands down with one of his, then silenced the phone and tossed it aside. Spam call, he said, his body a relentless engine. Focus. The call seemed to have spurred him on. The man practically turned into a wild wolf, nearly shaking my soul out of my body. By the time we finished, my voice was completely hoarse. It was only later that I found out the person who called that night was Julian. He had been kidnapped as part of a family power struggle. Caleb had put the call on speaker but muted the sound, so when Julian was begging me for help, all he heard in response were my escalating moans. The people who kidnapped Julian didn't intend to kill him. After beating him, they chained him to a toilet. All he had were a few crackers and a single cup. When Julian wanted water, he had to use that cup to scoop it from the toilet bowl. I heard that after he was rescued, Julian developed an eating disorder and couldn't keep anything down for a long time. He also had some mental health issues, but I no longer cared about any of that, because Caleb proposed to me. In the boundless wilderness of life, someone had finally crossed mountains and seas, running steadfastly toward me.